Hello, everybody. This is the level 2 recording for lesson 8, February 13th. We are already 8 weeks into the 2019 semester. So I know went way long on level 1 of today. And now I'm just going to do a rather shortened, truncated version here. Just get my little dog up here for level 2. So one of the things I wanted to do was return to last week's topic, which was all about an advanced understanding of the Merkaba. Hold on one second. And let me also get my my little, here we go, these things. Because I forgot to tell you one of the most important things that happens during that transformative process of moving from a tetrahedron or equilateral triangle, all sides equal type of pyramid into the type of pyramid that is the Great Pyramid in Egypt at Giza, which is this type of a pyramid. In that transformation, which again has nothing to do with adding or removing physical matter, it is a rearrangement of the matter that is already there. We move from having only 60-degree angles. In this shape, the only angle available is 60 degrees. And this shape and 60 degrees relates to the physical realm, the realm of biology. And if we want to get, I talk about this a lot. There's the physical realm and there's the non-physical realm. So our non-physical self is actually based on 8s instead of 6s. So 6 is hexa, the X in 6 and the X in hex is how you can remember that. 6 is hexa and 8 is octa. So if I show you this is our chakra shape here. And you're looking at these internal spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, Aurora, you're showing me the shape that you're telling me is octa, but I'm only seeing 4. And that's okay because you're only seeing the front half of what's here. Where's my other little sculpture? So this shape represents the negative space of the yellow sculpture. And negative does not mean bad, wrong, or harmful. It means the receptive space. Like the negative space of my glass is where my mango juice goes, okay? So the negative space of that chakra shape is shaped like this. And now you can see the 4 lobes are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that you're seeing in that shape and in much of my artwork. Here, stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, but you're looking at a cross section. You're not looking at the whole piece because now look, when you look behind there, here's 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we actually have 8. Unlike Sesame Street, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of these little orange football shapes here. And this is our higher dimensional or time-based body shape is based in 8s. Our physical body is based in 6s. So the cellular structure, when your sperm and your egg initially come together in conception and your cells start to split and divide and multiply exponentially into your physical structure, that structure happens at 60-degree angles. That's the flower of life. That's that expression or explosion, expansion, not violent explosion, through physical cellular structure. But that's only part of what we are. We are physical cellular structure, and we're also consciousness, and we're also time. So when you look at a bee's honeycomb, all of those angles are 60-degree angles. There are so many natural phenomena that show the hexagonal grid. And that's a basic, that's like the matrix of reality, is the basis upon which the physical molecules of reality are arranged at 60-degree angles. That's all of these, 60, 60, 60, and 60 plus 60 plus 60 is 180. That's how we get these little lovely triangles. When we transform this tetrahedron to the top part of the octahedron here, I'll make that bottom swings out and moves around to, let's do it right. Oops, here we go. My little tape. Here we go. You saw what I did. Bottom swings out, moves around, and goes like this. First of all, one big change is now we have a square bottom. We don't have a triangular bottom. This is the shape of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And the other big change is directly underneath my nose, you will see an angle that is actually a 90-degree angle. And it might be a little, my sculpture's not exactly perfect. I don't know if you could measure it with a protractor, but what happens is we just got a new angle by doing that. This shape now contains both 60-degree angles and 90-degree angles. This is a 90-degree angle. And of course, we have the complement that's at that bottom side. That's the same thing that also has another 90-degree angle. And so now this is the advanced level. This is level 2. You're all super smart geniuses. Remember when I was talking about how to build the dimensions? We start with the 0th dimension, first dimension, the second dimension, and that all of these leaps into the next dimension have to do with moving perpendicularly or at a 90-degree angle, right? Because like, let's say we have a line, and what's perpendicular to a line? A line that's at 90 degrees, like many lines lined up into a plane. And then if I have a flat plane, what's perpendicular to the plane? Going in this direction. Now I'm lining up many, many, many planes together. That 90-degree angle is a crucial angle to be able to jump into the next highest dimension. So I didn't want anyone to think that I was leaving out crucial information from grandma's strudel recipe. So again, you're all students of this class, and I hope that anyone who was, I'm just checking out my dog, who was, on board last week will follow up and watch this video for this week. And that is, in the recorded lessons, I just didn't get it in my notes. And then I was like, oh no, I left out crucial information. So I'm very, I'm a good teacher, and I want to make sure everybody has everything they need in the recipe. So that was one of the crucial things that you needed to know and understand in order to understand what is happening when we make this leap. We make a leap of perception. We rearrange the raw materials of the basic building blocks of what we have, get a new angle, and gain the capacity to jump at 90-degree angles to our present level of reality. Very good. Okay, so good. That was housekeeping. That was what I was like, walk around, and when I prepare my mind, I'm like, what am I going to talk about in class for the past couple of days? And I'm like, I got to remember to tell them blah, 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 because I don't want you to, make their strudel in the wrong way. Thank you very much. Now moving on to level 2 for this week. That was just housekeeping from last week. And I'll make sure everybody's muted. So this one is all about galactic aspects of self. And how do I even begin here? All the stars are personalities. And I talked about the life cycle of a star in some of the other lessons here. And stars are portals of consciousness. They're not all the same flavor vanilla or flavorless. They got all sorts of different flavors. Like one is habanero, one is mango flavored up there. Stars have individual personalities, and they have individual, flavors. Let me go to the whiteboard and I'll draw this out for us. Clear out everything from before. Here we go. So let's start off with the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. I'm a giant heavy object. And here's all of the arms of our galaxy that kind of swirl around and are made of many, many, many stars. And each one of these little stars over here, the stars themselves have their own personalities, and then the stars create as little, art projects, organisms on the planets that, surround them, and that those planetary inhabitants have their own personalities too. You want to jump on up? You want to come on up, girl? Come on up. There you go. Now you guys get to see. I'm so lucky. This is my boss. I work for my boss. Good girl. All right. Fantastic. It's cold and rainy, so we're just going to snuggle for the rest of class. Okay, good. I mean, while I talk, don't worry. She's like, I need like snuggling. So there are stars, and the stars are, let's say, perfected beings. They're really good musicians. They're not lame-ass losers. They're really good musicians. The organisms that the stars make, so the stars are like artists, and the organisms that the stars make on the various planets that surround the stars or that are within the star systems, these are like paintings. They're like the art projects of the stars. And the planetary inhabitants have different personality characteristics, not all of which are divine or perfect or perfected. It's a huge distinction to make. The stars themselves are really good musicians. They're perfect, they're perfected, they're divine. If you want to look for someone to jam with, you're like a musician, you're like, who can I play with? Play with the stars. They're good musicians. However, the planetary inhabitants of many star systems are not good musicians. And this is why there is, I call it a firewall or like a safety system that was part of the original design of our entire cosmos. Great composer is basically saying, how can I prevent these flavors from mixing on the plate? Because some flavors taste good together, right? Like gravy tastes really good on top of mashed potatoes, but gravy does not taste good on top of like chocolate pudding. Now, those are two flavors that do not taste good together. So how can I keep these flavors from mixing on the plate? And the answer is, if you, a part of it is time and part of it is space. If you require a clank metal spaceship to get off the surface of your planet and fly to another planet, you are technically not prepared to fly to another planet. You're not cultivated enough in a personal sense and in an energetic and consciousness sense. You should be able to transport your sense of self and consciousness without any form of technology in order to, get to where you want to go. And also, what is your motivation for wanting to get off your planet? Are you like, I'm a big fat jerk face and I want to fly off my planet because I destroyed my planet and ate all of its resources. I want to go to a new planet and I want to destroy that planet and eat all of its resources. Like, that is not cool. Or how about if you're like, I'm a big fat jerk face. I want to go oppress people. I don't like just sitting around being nice. I want to go to your planet over there and I want to like kill, mutilate, destroy, exterminate. And like, that's also not cool. So it's all about what are the motivations when you go through the extensive process of self-development and cultivation so that you can fly from place to place without a clank metal spaceship. Your entire value system changes. All the motivations, instead of being like, I want to fly over there and exploit those people for their resources, you don't want to do that anymore. And you start to understand and perceive that you are part of a much larger structure of metabolism, like consciousness flowing from one place to another, resources flowing from one place to another, and resources flowing through time. And you say, I don't want to screw that up by taking the wrong resources from over here and putting them over here when they're actually supposed to be over here at this time. So you begin to recognize when you reach that level of perception and self-cultivation that you don't want to screw up the entire symphony, the music of the entire band because of your selfishness, because of your ignorance, because of you, not being effectively connected. However, the personality characteristics that are on some of these individuated planets, like I'm not going to say they're inherently wrong or bad, just like I won't say there is an inherently ugly color, but I will say that some flavors or some colors do not belong in the entirety of the cosmos. They're only supposed to be in one little place for a very particular reason. So let's talk about extremophiles here. I'll just go back to my face. Extremophiles. These are organisms, like some of them live, on Earth's, on planet Earth right now, that thrive in very extreme environments. One example are the radioactive spiders, not radioactive, the spiders that live on at the bottom of the ocean. They survive off of the emissions, which are sometimes radioactive, and sulfur and stuff like that, that comes off of the vents that are like the lava tubes at the bottom of the ocean. That's an extreme environment. These are extremophiles, organisms that have managed to find, biological survival mechanisms in extreme environments. And they also live at the bottom of the freaking ocean. They have developed their responses to, a very harsh environment, and they live in that very harsh environment, and they stay there. They don't come like, to where you live, like, hanging out with like fluffy bunnies and little babies. Like, no, they live at the bottom of the ocean. So there are similarly extremophiles that live in the cosmos at large, on planets that are not Earth, and they are part of the art projects of various star systems. So the stars are good musicians. They're not making ugly music. And their paintings, like, the organisms that they're creating, I've said in the past, sometimes they have to go through an ugly phase. Like sometimes your painting looks either unfinished, not balanced, doesn't have good colors or whatever. It's a phase that it's going through and will eventually become a masterpiece, but you have to add many, many more layers and many, many more details to it. This is how we can understand the value of extremophiles, that some of these personality characteristics are developed of these space races. So I'll call them either space races or space species, right? This is exopolitics, non-terrestrial politics, or the structure of different organisms that don't live on this planet. And this relates to you and me because those different organisms, not stars, but the organisms on various different planets, have many multiple times genetically engineered our present human forms. So what is inside of us in terms of our DNA is an amalgamation of your original human heritage, who you are originally in connection to this planet, and then a layer on top of that of the first guys that mixed up your Rubik's Cube. And then the next guys came along, they're like, oh, we're going to mix up your Rubik's Cube again. And then the next guys came along, they're like, but wait, we're really going to mix up your Rubik's Cube. Sorry, I'm making up cheeky. Yeah, so a bunch of ham-handed jerk faces came along and they mixed up humanity's Rubik's Cube and turned us into what we presently are, which is not the optimum format genetically and consciously wise for us to integrate with reality. So that's why we have this struggle and we are suffering right now. So this information is not meant to justify or excuse their behavior of these invaders, but it is to inform us so that we can reach freedom more easily. These characteristics, personality characteristics of extremophiles. Imagine that there's a space race or a species of inhabitants of a planet that's a really difficult planet to live on. It's like the equivalent of the lava tubes at the bottom of the ocean. There's what are you going to eat for breakfast? Have some radiation, and then I'll have some sulfur sprinkled on top of that. Like, they don't have a nice environment with like clouds and trees and butterflies. They live in a very harsh environment. And everything about that species has developed in response to that harsh environment. So that means their perspective and their procreation. It's similar to the ancient Greek civilization known as Sparta. The Spartan civilization defined itself on physical athleticism and capacity. Like, they didn't allow weakness. Their infants, if their infants were weak or deformed in any way, they would destroy them. So the only beings who were allowed to grow to maturity in the Spartan system were the strongest beings. No quarter asked, no quarter given. Humans, the people in that society were expected to undergo, great physical hardships and not complain about it. Like, it was a mindset of life is difficult and you're going to have to be tough and hard from the beginning, and we ain't gonna coddle you, we ain't gonna help you out, like, life is hard. And the approach to many of these extremophiles in space is very similar. They're like, hey, we live on a radioactive planet, life is hard, suck it up. Only the strong shall survive, and to the victor go the spoils. It's very barbarian value system. And, if you've watched my videos, you understand that I say those things and I mock the barbarian value system that I find here on Earth, because I'm like, I clutch my pearls, like, that's not the way we do it where I come from. Yeah, I'm not a barbarian. The influence of those extremophiles transforming human genetic code and degrading human culture here has made humans more barbaric. And these are flavors touching on the plate that are not supposed to be touching on the plate. So these extremophiles in space, their approach is appropriate for their context. Like, yes, they have to live like Spartans. They can't, imagine if you lived in a world where there's so few resources, like this is described, the Inuit culture, like the far north, frozen north indigenous people, that if their elders became too old and too sick, they didn't want to become burdensome on the rest of their tribe and family members, because they had very few resources. Like, literally, they barely survive. They live in a cold, frozen wasteland. So if the old guy feels like he's becoming a burden, he will put himself out on an ice floe and be like, I'm just going to go away from you all because I don't want to be a burden and drag you down. That's very different than if you lived at the equator, where there's coconuts falling on your head every day, and you cannot worry about being an old guy that you're eating too much food to, burden the tribe. So this has everything to do with social and cultural response to amount of resources and context for biology. So it's not like saying the Inuit are wrong and the equatorial beings are right. No, they're responding to their culture. I'm not, please don't take my information out of context. I'm not justifying and excusing the inexcusable behaviors of many space races. They're supposed to be flavors that don't touch on the plate. So they developed their cultural response to their, life circumstances. And then they're supposed to transcend their life circumstances to get off their planet. They're supposed to get to a level of cultivation where they don't require technology, and then they are prepared to be, mature beings interacting on the level of, a galactic civilized society. They haven't been doing that. What they've been doing is being like, okay, we don't like our world and we're the toughest and we're the meanest and we're going to fly and clank like little spaceships to your world where we're going to take over your resources and get the stuff that we want and make our lives better and easier. Okay, wait. A question, good question. Let's go. First, Pedro's got a question. It says, do stars move in other dimensions or are they just like us in the 3D universe? That's a beautiful question. Yes, stars are multidimensional beings. So they have a layer of their being, just like we do, that is red, the physicality. I'm touching my physical face right now. And I also have all of these other layers or levels of being and consciousness that are non-physical and are moving at a different rate in time. So too do stars. Stars have a physical presence that is a portal for physical light, and they also have non-physical presences, layers of being that are made out of emotion, intellect, perception, a connection to the divine, and more subtle layers of being. Salu says, like the fascists, the barbarian value system. I'm agreeing with you. She says, I have plenty of those in my dad's side of the family barbarians. Yes. So now we can talk about family lineages. So these various different space races have had an influence on the original noble human from the beginning. And we are not who we once were. However, we make a choice every day. We have various genetic influences inside of us. Like you can say, there's the original human, the natural human, and then all of these, 12 or 15 different genetic engineers that came along and changed the human genetic code. You get to make a choice. You're the owner, operator, the driver of this car, of this body. You get to make a choice about which personality characteristics are the real you. What do you really want to act from? What do you really want to display? Are you a barbarian? Are you a reptile? We were talking about this in the level 1 presentation for today. The idea that we have pineal gland is a vestigial outgrowth remaining, trait from our reptilian heritage. We have reptiles as an evolutionary basis of our biology. There's the brain stem, which is reptilian. There's the pineal gland connection to the circadian rhythm, which is reptilian. That's not all that we are. It's like saying I have this note in my song, but I also have this, and this playing better. I have many notes in my song called Being a Human. So what we are supposed to do is have certain tendencies, like you might have badass tendencies, the survival instincts of the reptilian side of you, where you're like, yeah, I'm going to survive. Remember that, my whole thing, I'm looking out for number one. You're allowed to have that inside of you. That's basic parameters for staying alive. Staying alive. You're supposed to stay alive. And then we're also supposed to mitigate those basic tendencies and desires to stay alive with our other tendencies, with other notes in the song that make it so that we don't just go around. If I just was reptilian, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to go out there and work together with other people and get resources that way. I'm just going to get a machete. I'm going to get a giant sword. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to behead everyone else. I'm going to steal your resources and laugh as your blood spurts out of your neck hole. That's not what we do. We say, oh, I'd like to steal all of your resources, but then I have all these backlash and all these problems. So what I'm going to do instead is work together. And that's called human society. It means, although I want to behead you and steal your resources, I will instead do partnership, and we'll have commerce and trade and work together. And that's how we will all have a better experience. Question. Pedro says, Salut, I was beginning to think You had a big beard, barba in Spanish. So that's too funny, barbarian. Just making a joke. Okay, so now let's talk about the solution here. And I'm making this kind of like a shortened version of level 2. There are all of these different space races, and many of the ones that are flying around spewing their microbes all over the cosmos and also affecting timelines. They aren't just affecting their one timeline or possibility, they are affecting many timelines and possibilities. There's timeline bleed through, especially when you start to do stuff that it involves the quantum level or behavior on an atomic and subatomic level. So they're making a lot of trash, and they're throwing their trash into their next door dimension. And the neighbor next door is like, stop throwing your trash in my yard, throw your trash back. Yeah, none of this is cool. So this is the sense that we as humans are the outgrowth or expression of this galactic mishmash. There's a problem in the galaxy. Flavors are mixing on the plate that are not supposed to be mixing. We, in our present experience on Earth, are one example of the outgrowth of this. There's other planets that are similarly benighted or darkened or distorted or harmed. And our struggles are all concurrent. So our struggle for freedom on this planet relates to the struggle of other organisms for freedom, trying to be free on their planets too. And the solution is that, so all of these external influences have been distilled down into you, the experiencer. You, the experiencer, get to make a change and have those changes reverberate outward, not only to the future and to your descendants, but to the past. Like dropping a pebble on the surface of a pool and the ripples spread outward equally, around that entire event. When we do a transformation or healing in our embodied form here, our healing not only ripples forward to our descendants, it also ripples backwards to all of the circumstances that led us to this moment. Why do we need the healing? So by doing this healing in our body, we affect all of the genetic structures of all of the space races and civilizations that affected us. This is a huge rectification. So this is just very big. I keep trying to get this across to you. Each one of us, the message is, you are not just some small, cut off from the world, disembodied like piece of trash. No. And it's not like, oh, the angels, oh, the higher dimensional beings, oh, them up there, they're all really big and powerful, but you're just some stupid human down here, like drinking your coffee and, like using toilet paper and driving a car. No. Although we are here embodied in these, like whatever small forms, and we do need to use toilet paper, we are exalted beings. We're exalted beings, and we're wearing a mask or a disguise of being down here in these human forms. And the decisions that we make and the healings that we perform with our bodies are incredible and profound. And they have an effect on not only ourselves, our families, human society, but everything that brought us to this point. So I have to squint to read. Pedro says, do putis send thoughts through the reptilian parts of our brains? Thank you for that beautiful question. I'm hugging you through the screen. Thank you, my friend. Because your question is so insightful and it allows me to speak about what is going on. So the putis, these reptilians, they implant, or let's say that particular space race and their buddies, because it's not just one race. So there's a lot of them that are kind of working together in their convivial crappiness. Like, we're all be crappy together. We're all going to go eat those guys together. So it's not just the reptilians. There's also insectoids and, synthetics and artificial intelligence. Like, there's a lot that is all working together, but we'll just, put them under the name for now of all these reptiles. Here is how they influence and affect human behavior. So one of the first things is they implanted their own mind into humanity. And their mind is like their operating system. It's not even the language structure. It is the structure of expectation and perception of reality. Their perception of reality is programmed into humanity on a basic level. That's like the operating system, and then language is an app or a sub-program that runs on the platform of that operating system. Their operating system is flawed on a basic level. And all of those flaws then translate outward and upward. So they have influenced and harmed humanity by distorting the operating system, the language structure itself. So your language is the interpretation of symbolic structure. It can be phonetic sounds. These are my phonetic sounds that I'm making. It can be hieroglyphics. But the whole idea is you send someone a package, and the package is like a cardboard box that has a concept inside of it. And at a certain point, the putis, these, whatever, the occupiers of the interstices, they are not sending you packages that are full of stuff. Like you get a package on your front porch and you think, oh, like whatever, I ordered something mail order and my sweater just arrived. You open it up, there's no sweater inside of there. There's nothing inside of there. There's just the empty symbol structure. Real telepathy is the complete opposite. Real telepathy is just giving someone the sweater with no cardboard box around it. Here's this concept. Here's a sweater. Have it. And that's done on a bridge of love. And what language does is it takes the sweater and it puts it in a box that's here at the level of language and then sends it out to people. And then if you do language right, you open up the box, which are the words, and you feel the intention of sweater inside of it. What the putis do is they send you empty boxes. Here's an empty box. It is a word structure that has no meaning inside of it. And then you get the word structure and you put the meaning inside of it. This is big because this has to do with how humans have been participating in their degradation and enslavement and how you can be free. So something stimulates your brain and it gives you a verbalized word inside of your mind, like the word sweater. And then it has no substance to it, just that phonetic sound structure in your mind. And then you add meaning to that. You interpret that phonetic sound structure and you say, oh, now I'm going to start thinking about sweaters. Maybe I need to go shopping. Or you're thinking, maybe I'm cold. Maybe I need this. Maybe I need this. You begin the embellishment and interpretation and the giving energy and meaning and salience to the empty thing that was sent to you. That is how they control humans. And there's more. They also control humans through what some people would describe as the stimulation of the vagus nerve system. That's like on an objective materialist level, because the idea you have a vagus nerve system that is basically stimuli, reward, response, and also rejection or harm. Like it's the whole idea of addiction. It's the addiction mechanism inside of you. You do the right thing and the button gets pressed and you feel happy chemicals. You do the wrong thing, the other button gets pressed and you feel sad chemicals. And that is the other way that humanity is being controlled by these overlords, the same way that you have like a horse that has a rein and another rein. Like I pull on this rein, you go over here, I pull on this rein, you go over here. So as you're thinking your thoughts during the day, you might think something like, oh, I can't wait to go out there and do something to help humanity. The evil overlords that have hacked your operating system will then press the button. Negative response, I'm going to make you feel bad. And how about if you say, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some crack and I'm going to smoke it and I'm going to, shoot up a nursery school. Then they will press the good response. Good job, human. You are thinking totally psychotic, violent thoughts. Good job. This is exactly what they do. So this is how you can understand also a lot of social media. Many people are being controlled by that, vagus nerve or emotional response. It's very, Pavlovian. It's behavioral control of humanity via frequency. That's the big thing that you got to understand. These are not physical reins, like physical reins on a horse. It's all done through frequency. Zap. I frequency zap you. I zap you. I zap you. So if you do the things that the overlords like, I give you a happy zapping. If you do things I don't like, I give you a bad zapping. So things that I don't like might be something like exercising, eating really healthy, and meditating. I'm an extraterrestrial overlord jerkface. I'm going to zap you. I'm going to give you bad feelings when you eat carrots and when you do things that are good for your body. Hey, you know what? I'm going to make you, I'm going to give you happy zaps. Go take some cocaine. Happy zaps, happy zaps. Go watch some pornography. Happy zaps, happy zaps. Go work at your corporate job. Happy zaps. When you get paid with physical money, you get happy zaps. And I'm not casting aspersions because I get paid with physical money. When I get paid with physical money, I'm like, oh, happy zaps. I just got my pat on the head. This is how we are controlled as domesticated humans. So you can understand when you get $5, when you get $10, when you get $100, you know you're getting happy zaps, but you know that it's not like something that is real substance. It is like, you know, it's all within this context. It's like playing the game Operation. If you do the right thing, then you get this. If you do the wrong thing, it makes a noise and the buzzer goes off and you lose your turn. So this is exactly what is happening in this world. So on social media, let's say you say something that is unpopular to Satanists, who are basically, I'm defining Satanists as people who are bots, who are completely controlled by their zaps, that they only go according to their positive stimuli. That when the pesky occupiers of the interstices zap them for attacking you on social media, whatever, it doesn't even have to be an unpopular opinion. You just say something, and the beings who are bots, who are controlled by malevolent reptilian AI, they're like, I'm going to attack you. I'm going to say you're dirty and stupid and poopy and I hate you, and then I will get happy zaps because I attacked you and I'm serving Satan and they're making me feel good for attacking you. And you will also see a swarm or a hive mind where many of them come in. It's like, oh, one person is attacking and they're getting happy zaps. They call their friends, and their friends all come in for happy zaps too. And they say, oh, you're a stupid poopy head. You're a jerk face. And they get happy zaps. And the happy zaps make a person feel like a sense of, you know, emotional well-being and goodness. Like, why do people fight on the internet? They're getting something out of it. They're spending their time and their energy. They're getting something out of it. So yeah, the way that you transcend that whole situation is you understand you're in control of your behavior, regardless of the reward and stimuli and pleasure pain principle that is going on. So yeah, if you want to eat healthy and do yoga, even if that thing doesn't give you happy zaps and might even give you negative zaps, do your thing anyway. And that's how I live my life. Pedro, another question. Did Atlanteans just manifest the comfortable temperature or manifested a sweater in their bodies? Okay, and then Pedro's understanding trolls from the happy zaps. I totally get it. In Atlantis, what we did was created a microclimate around our bodies. And this is part of the preparation and self-cultivation needed for getting off your planet without a clank metal spaceship. So right now, what everyone thinks is if you want to fly off your planet, you got to build a giant metal box to get into, and you also put on your spacesuit, metal skin with air inside of it to keep you safe. But what we did in ancient Atlantis, what real, you know, non-technology requiring experts do is you create an atmosphere, an energy field around your body, and the energy field around your body keeps you warm, keeps you dry, keeps you nourished with the atmosphere that you require, and is also like an immune system that prevents you from getting infected with pathogens. This system of your own private atmosphere, it requires an immense amount of self-cultivation of your own personal energy field. So in this time and place, not everybody is even allowed to explore cultivating their personal energy field because it requires sitting in the same place for a very long amount of time and meditating for a very long amount of time. Almost none of us are allowed to do that. Most of us are always on the hunt. I'm on the hunt for food. I'm on the hunt for money. I can't just sit here on my fat ass not thinking. That is what monks do. That is what nuns do. So they have to have a whole structure to support them in their, physicality to be able to even sit and cultivate their energy to the point of getting enough gas in their car, money in their energy bank to do this type of thing. And there are breathing exercises that a lot of these meditators from the Far East do. It's not just meditation. It is there's pranic breathing exercises where basically some of these practitioners are able to raise their skin temperature, raise their body temperature, and stay warm even in extreme conditions, such as the snowy places of the Himalayas. And they'll go out there either wrapped in cold sheets and practice these practices to warm the sheets up and dry them out, or let me just drink of water. Go out unclothed. There's a guy who's not a monk, who's a Westerner, and he climbed Mount Everest just wearing like a pair of shorts. It was freezing and not summertime and very snowy. and he, is a yoga master or a self-practitioner, cultivated practitioner who's been doing this for a very long time. And he does it through, meditation and breathing practices and things like that. And there's another example, a woman who does free diving, is going into the water with beluga whales. And she's somewhere in Ukraine, I want to say. It's like Lake Baikal or something like that. But she does not wear a sub-zero suit. She goes in totally naked, totally without clothing. And the water is very frigid. It's like slightly above freezing. And she does, in order to do this, all sorts of breathing exercises to be able to hold her breath for that long and be in cold water for that long. So all of these examples are examples of what can happen if you take the human body to these levels of cultivation. I'm sorry, I have to drink a lot of water. My voice is getting tired. These levels of self-cultivation, that's just like the minimum of what we all were before our genetic degradation. So that the idea that certain people in our world have reached this pinnacle of self-cultivation, the monks, the Himalayan hiker, the beluga swimmer, they're doing things that we all should be able to do with our bodies, but we're just not there yet. So they're showing us like, oh, this is what you can do. They focus their entire life on that cultivation to be able to do that. So this is a little bit on like, the question of looking into the future. We all are on this journey to being less reliant upon physical substances for nourishment, like we won't have to eat physical food and drink physical water in order to be well nourished and happy. And this is part of our necessary cultivation to be able to fly without a metal spaceship. And one of the other things that we'll do is keep ourselves warm and dry and comfortable without a house. And it's kind of like being a Sasquatch. Sasquatch does not have to live in a house. Sasquatch also does not only stay warm because they have a big, giant, shaggy, Chewbacca-like coat of hair. They stay warm because of their psychic energy and their psychic abilities and their connection to the sun and the stars. So I tell you this just to like plant a seed of what is possible, not as some kind of a thing, like an impossible hurdle to jump over, like, oh, you're not good enough unless you're like a Sasquatch. No. And I love you and I love myself. Guess what? Like, I get cold outside. I live in California. It's cold here when it's like 55 degrees. Me and my little dog, like, we go outside, like, we're bundled up in sweaters. I'm not like one of these monks that's doing breathing exercises and trying to stay warm. I wear a sweater. So this is what I want to say. Like, don't hold yourself to an impossible standard. Just know that these things are possible and that we are heading in that direction. I know that there's more questions. I have to squint to see. Oh, so yeah, a lot of good things. I would like to talk with you guys a lot about what life was actually like in Atlantis. I'll get into that a lot more, I think, on other broadcasts. Joelle says, getting sent the empty boxes kind of reminds me of worrying. Good. She says, you just constantly receive piles of empty boxes blocking your front door that have warning, danger stickers all over them, and you're just opening them forever while freaking out. That is such a beautiful description. And I think almost all of us can relate. I think almost all of us have had the feeling of anxiety. Usually the boxes that come to me, they say something like, something horrible has happened to your loved one. And then I usually fill that box with, oh no, what happens if something happens to my dog? What happens to my family, my artwork, my house, like all those things. And yeah, at a certain point, I realized, wow, I'm receiving these empty boxes and I'm filling them with meaning. So I'm not interested in those types of, it's literally a stimulation. So here's how you can understand this. It's very scientific. It's very like reward stimulus. It's like rats in a cage. This is a frequency gun. Zap, zap. I zap your brain with a frequency gun. They will map your neurons. These are non-terrestrial entities, but these are also embodied human intelligence agencies because part of what they're using is the system of smart meters and cell phones to perform this. It's way worse now than it ever was in the past. It is harder for you to think your own thoughts now and be a true person now than it ever was in the past. Let me just tell you that. You have to be a super badass MFer to be able to even be here and have any control of your own mind right now. So yeah, zap, zap. is how they send you empty boxes. And it's just like, if you could imagine, a keyboard, an array. You know how Stephen Hawking, that scientist, he was paralyzed, but he had different buttons that he could press by looking at his screen. And they might be pre-programmed with something like the button, like, I am thirsty, I need a drink of water, like move me over here, because he would use those phrases a lot, right? So we have that in our brain also. We have certain phrases that we might think a lot, and all the evil beings have to do is zap, zap. I artificially stimulate this phrase. I artificially stimulate this phrase. It's not you thinking with your own mind. Something else has implanted its mind into you. It gave you those buttons, and it reaches in and it mercilessly presses those buttons, kind of playing you like the way you play a piano. First, I'm going to press this, and then you're going to freak out. Then I'm going to press this, and you're going to freak out more. Then I'm going to press this, and you're going to freak out even more. And then I'm going to press this, and you're going to freak out to the point where you drink alcohol, smoke tobacco, take cocaine, or do whatever are the things that are self-destructive things that you do that make yourself feel slightly better. And, now you understand addiction. Now you understand the escape mechanisms that people are trying to use to escape the stimulation. This is good. Pedro says, I just blow away the boxes when I notice they are blocking my view. Very good. And all of us, something, the post office sends me these stupid like flyers, advertisements. They're like paper catalogs or whatever. And they block up my mailbox. And I get very resentful. I'm like, I didn't ask for these. I don't want these. I have to do something with them. If I just leave them in there, they do get blocked up the works and everything like that. So yes, it is very, very annoying. The idea is that when we do our Merkabahs really effectively, this is like a type of psychic armor that blocks out all of that crap. We should not have to deal with any of that crap. We should not have anybody pushing our mental buttons consistently throughout the day, trying to wring misery and anxiety from us. That is not what we were intended to experience here in this level of reality. So Merkabah shielding is part of that. And then here's what I do. You can do this if you want to. You just have to be really good at it. This is like snake handling. So like I said, you got to be really good at it. So something sends a tendril of energy to me. Zap, right? I'm fast now. That tendril comes to me. I grab it. And I lasagna. I go like this. If you've ever worked those ropes at the gym where you kind of have a big giant rope and you go like this, it works your shoulders and back. I grab their tendril and I go whack, whack, whack. And I make the lasagna curly, and I send their energy back to them, whack, whack, whack. And it fractures them all up and they can't deal with it. But again, this is snake handling. So if you're not fast enough, or if you don't know exactly how to do it, you don't have to do it. Block out the beings that are attacking you and don't interact with them. But I want you to know that there are maneuvers that you can do when you gain your muscles, when you get fast. Whack, whack, whack. There's a lot of things you can do. Pedro says, when I notice something making me uncomfortable, I Merkabah myself excellent, encrypt my DNA even more excellent, so they only get the access denied message and power up my sharp-bladed defenses. Pedro, that is fantastic. And so thank you for your practice, and also thank you for reminding me that I need to reaffirm to everyone genetic encryption. So they are not supposed to be able to reach in and press your buttons and read your mind and feel your anxiety freakouts as a result of what I say to you. Like it's easy, like if I could read your mind, I could be like, oh, this is all I have to say to this dude over here, and he will totally, drop his pants, and he will, have a shit. He won't know what to do with himself. It's easy to do that. So one of the big things is encryption. If no one can read your mind, and they don't know what are their buttons to push. And if they can't sense the result of the button pushing, they can't tell whether they've effectively, damaged you or whatever. So the access denied is really important. Encrypt your DNA. I encrypt my DNA every day. I refresh my encryption quite often. It's just like choosing a new password for your logins or whatever. And your encryption can be different and unique to you, completely different than what anybody else does. So your encryption can be a song that only you know the melody of. Or your encryption can be a dance movement that only you know how to dance. Like, how bees do their little bee dance. I'm just throwing these ideas out there so that you don't think that your encryption has to be like what mine is. Mine might be a series of letters or numbers or patterns like this. That's my encryption. But whatever you do something and know that that is your right. That is essential. That's what we're all supposed to be doing. No access by these exploiters who want to take your energy and use it for malevolent capacities. And the other thing is, if someone sticks something into you, it's yours. You have boundaries, right? The boundary says, this is me, this is not me. If something that is not me comes inside of me, I can take it and I can do what I want to do with it. I'm about to sneeze. That is one of the rules of reality. So if something sticks its tendril into you with the intention of raping you, you can be like, oh, thanks for the tendril. First of all, I'm going to chop it off. Then I'm going to do whatever I want to do with that. You can have an energetic slush fund. It's like someone just sent you $100, or someone just like sent you a cannonball. I think they used to do that in the old days. Like, oh, look, a cannonball just fell onto my ship. I'm going to take it, stick it in my own cannon. I'm going to send it back to you. So you can do all sorts of fun and creative things. Just start thinking creatively about what you can do in terms of sending that energy back. I'm squinting and screed is okay. Hans, good to see you. Thank you. Welcome, and I'm sending you sunshine. Hans says, does part of the magic with the Merkaba come from imagining the unbelievable? Two seemingly solid objects counter-rotating in the same space. I think part of the magic of the Merkaba has to do with trying to pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. Like we do things that are such a challenge to our system of thinking and perceiving and projecting that it supersedes the rational mind and supersedes the talking mind. I think that's a big part of it, because the things that help me to get out of my talking mind and into my true mind are complexities. Painting these paintings and focusing on artwork, focusing on music and complex patterns like that. I'm so focused on the patterns and doing things perfectly, I don't have any extra energy left for the talking mind. And I think the talking mind is our software vulnerability that allows the hacking to happen. So anytime that I can not talk, not use my verbalized mind, I think that helps to protect me. And when I am envisioning the Merkaba, a big part of it is that it uses a lot of my mental energy to envision it and to, keep it going and to really, like feel it and sense it. So I think that's a big part of it. Pedro says, what gets in my personal space becomes my personal trophy. Exactly, you understand. And Pedro also says, imagine the Merkaba as a solid but fluid Terminator. Oh, I think I understand what you're talking about, like Terminator 2, the liquid metal that could be solid at the same time too. Yeah, so in envisioning these defenses and these different things that you're doing, we're talking about the world of imagination. In vision, using your inner vision. There's literally no limit other than the limits of your imagination. And I've used this diatribe in the past. That stupid movie, Green Lantern. Don't see it. It's a very stupid movie because Green Lantern gets this magic. He's a regular guy. He gets a magic ring from the Green Lantern Society. And then with that ring, he can manifest anything that he imagines. So in the movie, he gets into a jam. He's like, I know, I'll imagine a car and I'll drive away from the problem. Like, that is not very imaginative at all right? Or, I get in a problem. I know, imagine a gun and I'll shoot my way out of the problem. That is not very imaginative at all. So what's a much more imaginative thing to do? What if I imagined a factory that makes imagination rings, and then everybody gets an imagination ring, and then everybody is the Green Lantern imagining all these things? Like, there's all sorts of cool, wonderful things that you can imagine beyond that. So, the idea of envisioning your Merkaba as a liquid metal that can also be solid, or relating it to science fiction, fantasy things that you might have been exposed to. Keep on thinking, keep on innovating, keep on jazzing. There's no right and there's no wrong. There are the things that work and the concepts that are unique to you. So keep on thinking of new and unique concepts. Billy, hello, welcome. I think you're new and it's very lovely to see you here. Yeah, it says, what is the process of encrypting DNA? Great question. So a lot of my teaching this is the teaching on the physical mundane level. A lot of my teaching happens on the non-physical telepathic level. So I've said in the past, what I did when I figured out how to encrypt my DNA, I of course spoke about it in class, but I also created a download version. So just like on the computer, you have like a torrent stream or someplace like CNET. If you have a computer program that you want to share with others that you created, I put it up on CNET, and then anybody who's interested can download it. I created a genetic encryption program, and I put it up on the cosmic, non-physical level of CNET that anybody can download who's into it, who wants to know about it. And I don't put any viruses or advertisements or anything like that in my cosmic software system. So yeah, you are welcome to download my template. And my template doesn't say, here's Aurora's encryption for her personal body. It basically says, here's how you can encrypt DNA. And then you take it and you run with it. You make it according to your own personal parameters. So the answer is, I'm telling you, your intellect with my words, that this thing exists. Now it is up to you with your psychic powers and your non-physical presence to actually go to that level of reality and access that information and internalize it if you wish. You are invited to. It's optional, not mandatory, and then you can work with that. Or you can figure out your own way of doing it. It's like saying, write your own program. If you don't want to download mine or you don't trust mine, that's fine. Write your own. The big takeaway is understanding your DNA is your own. It is for you to create reality. It is not for anyone else to come in and create reality. That includes not your mommy, not your daddy, not your grandpa, not your ancestors, not religion, not the Pope, not President Trump. No one else comes inside of you. And that's very big. Like, that's the big shift in your power structure, because a lot of people think, especially from growing up, oh, of course, mommy and daddy are supposed to tell me what to do. Even adults, I know adults who are like in their 50s who still let mommy and daddy tell them what to do. So it's a big, big thing. You have to have boundaries to say, no, mommy and daddy don't tell me what to do. How about the ancestors? Like, I mean, I don't know who your ancestors are. I would say that not all of the ancestors of this body are worthy of telling me what to do. And a lot of them made a huge mistakes in their lives, and they should not be controlling my life. So yeah, I would say, no, ancestors shouldn't be telling you what to do. Near term or ancient ancestors. Only good musicians should be telling you what to do. Sarah Jane, SJ, good to see you, says, could we use a breathing pattern for encryption? Yes. Thank you. That is very good. Now you're talking. Now you're thinking along the correct lines. Very good. Pedro says you can use scents, flavors, textures of food, feelings, a special place, etc. Yes, I love you. This is you are wonderful students. You guys are really super smart. You totally get it. So that's it. And I would never tell anyone else it's like choosing your own password. Like, you're going to have to, like, the name of your first pet or your first job or what, it's unique to you. So your fingerprints are unique to you. Your DNA structure is unique to you. Your life trajectory is unique to you. That also means, like, where you were born, where you're coming from, where you're flying through time, and where you are eventually going to. That's your journey. It's unique to you. It's not right for me to say, oh, you go here and do this. That's my journey. I come from upstate New York and I moved to California. That's my journey. That's not your journey. So a big part of this is, recognizing the necessary individuation here. I would not want everyone to use the same encryption. I would not want everyone to do it. The musicians in this band do not play in lockstep. This is not the Borg. This is jazz. This is like jazz trapeze artists with everybody flying all over the place in amazing patterns, and nobody crashes into anybody else because everybody is so much of an expert. Okay, I'm definitely very tired, and my voice is very tired, and I know I went super long on level 1, so I'm just going to say that's level 2 for right now. Let me get through the rest of the questions. Pedros is changing a little bit the conversation. That's cool. Says, were legendary or mythical beings real or based in reality, or are they metaphors or made-up folklore, or made to enforce the narrative? I don't believe that they missed Noah's Ark. That's a really, really good question. Oh, and he says short answer is okay. Yeah, I really enjoy your question. So I think some mythological beings, like the story of vampires, that these are approximations of beings that actually exist. We have stories about vampires because they actually exist. These are cautionary tales trying to tell us, like, how to live in a better way. Other mythological beings. So let's talk about things like the Minotaur, half human, half animal, any of those types of things. I think that those beings did actually exist as a result of genetic modification by some of these genetic engineers that were not loving and not helpful towards humanity. So I think some things, like if you see ancient tell or a hieroglyphic that represents a human body but a bird head, or some of these mixtures of animals, I think those were actual animals, actual creatures, not merely mythological. I think some other mythological creatures, such as Quetzalcoatl. This is, I should have said that in level 1 teaching about the idea of avatars, is an avatar, Quetzalcoatl, the Mayan version of this great teacher that is here to acculturate humanity and bring us to freedom. I think that these are that humans perceived something that was perceptible, possibly with their supernatural, their ESP, and then it became mythologized through many tellings. And some myths are effective because they plant a seed, like, of what is possible. This is the justification, but it's not like an excuse. I always say this: you cannot use a lie to tell the truth. But let's say that you wanted, I should say this about the story of Jesus too. If you wanted to say to people, oh, eternal life is possible, so we'll make up a story about someone who never actually existed, but they somehow achieved eternal life. And even though I'm lying to you, it's like I'm giving you help because I'm telling you this thing is possible. So it's kind of a twisted way of saying it. It's like when you lie to your kids about Santa, and it's like it's serious trust issues arise as an end result of that. So I do not believe that it's good to use a lie to try to tell the truth. Sometimes myths can plant a seed about what is possible in the mind. So sometimes that is the effective use or reason, justification for a lie or a myth to be in existence. But so much better for things to be based in truth. And when you start to open your eye of perception and you can read situations and read reality, you can tell intuitively, innately, what's true and what's a lie. And that's why when everybody starts to open and activate, you look at the story of Jesus and you look at the story of Christ and then you look at the Bible and you look at all the things, you will be able to see and sense what's truthful and what's not truthful. Like tasting. You can taste it. Oh, that tastes sweet. That tastes like poop. This is this. This is this. You can taste it all. So again, don't take my word for it. Develop your own system of perception, and then you will sense all these things for yourself. Definitely, I'm going to end things for right now. Thank you so much, and thank you for your wonderful questions and comments.